let's get into Justin Trudeau. A rare moment of a journalist doing their job in the mainstream media. Somebody asked him, given record low polling and a blue sweep rolling across this country, and, even Montreal Island, they might have a conservative seat there, polling suggests.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's how bad it is. He's asked that. I mean, have they ever had a conservative there? Probably not in the history of Confederation. Anyway, somebody asked Trudeau why doesn't he just step aside like Biden did, as though Biden did it for the polling numbers and not because he has a brain like Swiss cheese.
You say that you plan to stay on despite persistently bad polling, despite the by-election loss in Toronto, that your party lost for the first time in 3 decades, because you want to continue to deliver. Isn't that what Joe Biden insisted on?
Listen, we are focused on being there for Canadians. We're focused on stepping up on support and investments that are going to leave Canadians better off for the coming years and indeed decades. Canada has built one of the strongest economies in the G7, in the world right now, because we've been there to invest in the middle class and people working hard to join it. We've been delivering on programs that have made a real difference in Canadians' lives. And right now, as people are facing challenges, we are setting the best balance sheet in the G7 to work for Canadians.
But sir, you just made the Joe Biden argument that his record justifies him staying. The electorate is saying they don't want you. They want change. Your polling personally is worse than your party's.
I spent the summer talking with Canadians, and people's focus is on getting the support they need for their kids, for their future. They want to see a strong future for Canadians. They want to see opportunities for their kids. That's what we're working on every single day to deliver. That's what I'm focused on. That's what I'm excited about. And that's why we're going to go into this next election putting a very clear choice for Canadians. But we're still a year plus away from the election. I'm focused on making sure we're delivering through that election the kinds of things that Canadians need. That's what we're here for.
Wow, Sheila, I love the look in Justin's face, because those were some prickly questions, especially, you personally are actually polling lower than your party.
I know.
Isn't it time to do a Biden? And it's kind of that look of the lion tamer when the cats are starting to claw back. It's like, How dare you? Don't you know who feeds you at the end of this act, kind of thing. But I will tell you the difference between Justin Trudeau and Joe Biden. Let's not kid the kidders, as they say down on the Midway, Sheila. Joe Biden was taken into a little room with Nancy Pelosi and was basically given the speech of, we can do this the easy way or we can do it the hard way. Right? And the easy way is to leave with dignity, recognizing that it's Kamala's time, yada, yada, yada. Or the hard way is that we take you out forcefully, and it's not going to be pretty. And Biden, realized that the jig is up. So I guess what I'm saying, Sheila, is it comes down to the Liberal MPs. Do they have an appetite to pull a Palace coup? Now, I think there's some that are definitely on side, but let's not make a mistake, folks. When Justin Trudeau got elected almost 9 years ago, the party wasn't even the official opposition. So many of these MPs that are sitting there, and you probably don't even know most of their names, they're just backbenchers, they're just happy as clams to be in this government, to have already qualified for their pension. So for their own selfish self-interest, they don't see going after Trudeau as job one. I guess, Sheila, all we have to think about is the drop-dead time in which a coup would take place, because we're less than a year and a half away from an election. Pardon me?
We're ticking over that time already, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's too late.
I would argue it's either next month or else this is the guy leading the Liberal Party. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the Liberals are in trouble in places that are historically theirs. Like I said, the Conservatives look like they're leading in a riding on the island of Montreal. They are leading in Quebec. They're currently polling higher than the Bloc Québécois in 2 separate polls, in Abacus polling and Leger polling from about 2 weeks ago. That's unheard of. The Conservatives historically had like a you'd sort of call them a French deputy in the party who would do outreach to French language Conservatives. They don't even have that right now, and they are polling higher than the Liberals in historically Liberal run ridings. With regard to the future of the Liberal Party, what do they got? What do they got? If they can't wrangle in Mark Carney, I don't think they have anybody. And I'm not a Mark Carney fan. His policies around green energy should be stuffed in a suitcase and launched into space. But to save themselves, they have to go from without the party because the current MPs, I think, have too much baggage. They have stayed silent for far too long. Who's next? Freeland? Nobody likes her. She's crazy. Mark Miller, also just a Trudeau sycophant all the way through. Everybody along the way has kept their mouths shut and enabled Trudeau into this mess. You can't pull a Kamala Harris and say, oh, I'm the woman for the job. You mean you're the woman who shut your mouth while he was doing all this stuff? Like you did, so there's nobody else. They have to go from outside the party. And I think the only viable option who doesn't come with all the Trudeau baggage is Mark Carney. Now he comes with all of his UN World Economic Forum garbage baggage for sure. But for a lot of Liberal voters, that's far more palatable than Trudeau himself at this point. And the polling shows it.
But Sheila, what's in it for Mark Carney? I'm not saying he doesn't have designs on becoming the next leader of the Liberal Party of Canada and eventually Prime Minister. But in politics, as you know, timing is everything. If I'm Mark Carney, I'm not getting on this sinking ship.
Oh, no.
I'm letting the skipper go down to resign.
I'm not being Tim Campbell to his Brian Mulroney, I'll tell you that much right now.
Perfect example. So if I'm Matt Carney, and he's certainly in no rush and he's financially well off, I let this thing go down like the Titanic, and I rebrand the Liberal Party as I'm the savior. I'm the next best hope. I'll restore things. And of course, by this point, if the polls are correct, we have a Pierre Poilievre majority government, and they will be trying to govern this country like adults. And of course, the trained SEALs in the media who are on Poilievre's hit list in terms of getting defunded, they'll be running piece after piece of, oh, look at all the defunding, look at all the programs that are being canceled. Yes, because we can't afford it. We're bankrupt, essentially. And that will lay, I think, the pathway for Carney to exploit as saying, I'm going to come in, I'm going to rescue you from this. But for getting on this ship right now, if I'm Mark Carney, I'm not touching it with a 10-foot pole, even if I'm standing 11 feet away. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't touch this with somebody else's pole. You know what I mean? Like this, I don't, his only option is, as I said earlier, was to be the Kim Campbell, to be the person holding the bag when somebody else burns the party to the ground. I mean, he would have to come in and fashion himself as a Paul Martin, like a business-minded liberal. I just don't think there's an appetite amongst Liberal voters for that anymore. If they're business-minded, they're already in the Conservative Party. The Liberal Party left them behind long time ago.
Sheila, and if I may say, I pine for the days of classical Liberals like Paul Martin. And it's too bad he was the author of his own misfortune in trying to be uber politically correct. When he earned the nickname Mr. Dithers, it was over for him. And there's one incident, really minor, but it solidified Paul Martin's fate. And I'll never forget, I think it was a CBC reporter. He was doing some Christmas photo op at his house. And she asked, is that a Christmas wreath or is it a holiday wreath? And Paul Martin looked like a deer facing the high beams of a Hummer on the 401, panicked, and he said, "It's a $50 ring." So it's over.
Jeez, just say it's a Christmas wreath, and that would have been the end of it. But it's when they try to make everybody happy, it just ends up in disaster. Let's go to, we got a couple more things we really need to breeze through. We're going to stay on time because we've got some messages from some sponsors that we need to get to. Justin Trudeau, as he continues to plummet in the polls, he's going to try to do things that the Conservatives are already saying they're going to do, thinking that Canadians are going to think that this is some sort of sincere change of heart and not just absolute power-hungry cynicism. So now he's decided that he's going to reduce the number of temporary foreign workers in Canada. Let's hear from him. All of a sudden, this is
2 years ago, in the aftermath of the pandemic and facing severe labor shortages, we adjusted the program for temporary foreign workers. That's what the business community needed. That's what the business community was asking for. And at that moment in time, those changes helped. They helped the economy, and they helped businesses make it through a challenging moment in our economic recovery. But today's economy is very different from it was 2 years ago. Inflation has started to come down, employment is higher, and we no longer need as many temporary foreign workers. We need Canadian businesses to invest in training and technology and not increasing their reliance on low-cost foreign labor. It's not fair to Canadians struggling to find a good job, and it's not fair to those temporary foreign workers, some of whom are being mistreated and exploited. So I asked my minister to work on this over the summer, and we are taking action. We are tightening the rules and restricting eligibility to reduce the number of low-wage temporary foreign workers in Canada, with exceptions in certain industries like healthcare, construction, and food security. We'll also be looking at changes to the high-wage stream of the program as part of the minister's expedited 90-day review. So to those who would complain about worker shortages, here's my message. There is no better time to hire and invest in Canadian workers.
So, Sheila, tell me if I have this right. Isn't this whole fiasco, because the Prime Minister mentioned the pandemic, isn't it all tied to really people being paid CERB to stay home and do nothing? And that's why we had to bring in all these temporary foreign workers, because we were still eating, we still needed clothing, we were still shopping, so on and so forth. It's just that there were so many Canadians that, hey, if I can just play video games on the couch and Trudeau's going to pay me for that, why should I schlep my butt out of this sofa and actually put in an honest day's work?
Yeah, and we have a generation of underemployed young Canadians.
Yes.
And the number of underemployed young Canadians who should be doing those entry-level jobs, because an entry-level job is just that. It's your first job. It teaches you about working in the workforce, and then you go up the ladder or take those valuable work skills and apply them somewhere else. But if we are bringing in temporary foreign workers to do those jobs, not only are we exacerbating the youth unemployment and underemployment problem, but we are denying young Canadians the opportunity to learn those valuable life skills about having a first job. We are just giving all the food service jobs to temporary foreign workers. We're just doing that. If you've been to a fast food place these days, it's by and large a lot of temporary foreign workers. Those are jobs that young Canadian people should be doing, whether they want to do them or not. They should be filling them because it makes them better workers going forward. The knock-on effect for future generations by not having them do these jobs, I think will be really, really bad for our economy in about 20 years.
Oh, 100%. And Sheila, in the department of There's Plenty of Blame to go around, big multi-billion-dollar corporations. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Tim Hortons.
Chamber of Commerce conservatives, I'm looking at you.
Yeah. If they can get away with saving maybe even just $1 an hour by employing these temporary foreign workers, they'll do it. You know, as they say, business is business, baby. Nothing personal. And that is shameful, Sheila.
It is. Let's keep going on this because I don't know how Justin Trudeau makes the distinction between the problems caused by temporary foreign workers and the problems caused by overinflated immigration targets, because they cause the same problem. They drive down wages, drive up the price of housing, and the strain on our social security net. So Justin Trudeau has said we're going to limit the number of temporary foreign workers because drives down wages, where do we house them, all those things, while simultaneously not doing all that much about readjusting his immigration target. So he was asked about that. Let's take a listen.
You're saying you're taking a holistic approach when it comes to immigration, considering the number of temporary workers when you're looking at permanent residency. But just on PR, is your government considering reducing the number on an annual basis of people who can get PR in Canada?
Those are the discussions that we're having as a cabinet here and over the coming months, making sure that our immigration, which continues to be an extraordinary, important advantage that Canada has in the world, that contributes to growth, contributes to well-being of so many Canadians, continues to be the way we operate, but it has to be done right. So we're looking at the various streams to make sure that as we move forward, Canada remains a place that is positive in its support for immigration, but also responsible in the way we integrate and make sure there's pathways to success for everyone who comes to Canada.
Sheila, I'm calling BS on this. The Prime Minister just said that immigration contributes to growth. It contributes to the well-being of Canadians. He left out one important point, one that's never spoken aloud. It contributes to the future viability of the Liberal Party of Canada, which is to say, the unspoken deal is you get into the country, but all we're asking every 4 years, when you go to the polling booth, check Team Red and quid pro quo, baby. That's all that's what's really behind this, I think, Sheila.
Of course. And in the meantime, you cannot drive around Toronto because that's where so many newcomers are settling as they go to Toronto. And now you can't use the roads. You sit in traffic all day because our infrastructure is not keeping up with the Justin Trudeau's constant importation of voters.
Unbelievable.
Anyway,
well,
let's hit an ad.
So, Sheila, if you were a betting woman, I think you're a betting woman. Can I call you a woman? What do you think? Is Justin Trudeau the face of the Liberal Party in the next federal election or not?
I think they don't have a choice. I think it's too late.
Yeah, the clock is ticking. I would argue if nothing's done by next month, he is the face. And you know what? I'm glad. For two reasons. I don't think he can salvage this sinking ship. And Sheila, maybe it's an element of what's that German word? Schadenfreude?
Schadenfreude, yeah.
Yeah, you know, where you take pleasure in someone else's misery.
I do.
I just want to see that speech on election night, you know, the concession speech of Trudeau stepping down. What? By the way, what's the over-under that he's going to blame somebody else for this?
Oh, the far right, Russia. Maybe then he'll get around to saying that the Chinese are actually meddling in our elections. Who knows? It won't be his fault. It won't be his hubris and his ego and his sense of self-entitlement that he is the hereditary ruler of this country. I think that's how he sees himself. Anyways, enough with this foppish young duke. Let's get rid of him.